All right, I'm going to shift gears here. So we've talked about lightning injury, which is the most studied, but I also want to take some time talking about hail injury, which is often an underappreciated aspect of when we're out there chasing. Now, how many of you, by a show of hands, really love to get hail cored? Okay, let me show you your fate. All right, so fortunately only a few of you guys. I am terrified by hail. Hail scares the hail out of me. All right, so this was from Nebraska. These were some hailstones I came across, and I love how all of them look like they belong at the end of a chain and a stick, like a morning star from the Middle Ages. These things look like they mean business, and they're up to about 3 inches in diameter, as you can see on one of them on the left. Now, hail has a lot of different effects. We all know that it forms at different areas of the thunderstorm. We know it has to do with going up into the updraft, and sometimes, particularly with stones like this, going up into the updraft multiple times and gaining layers as it does so. And it can be of various densities, but when it comes down hard. Now, one of the biggest variables in hail injury is whether the stone has been just tossed casually out of the mesocyclone. I can tell you how wonderful that is. I was chasing with Jim Leonard one year, and Jim was a hail magnet. So we're driving, and we're in sunshine, and all of a sudden a hailstone just comes down and smashes right into his windshield. It was fun listening to what he said next, but basically, that was one of those rogue stones that gets tossed out of the mesocyclone. And that actually probably is not going to hit with as much velocity as if you're in the front flank region where you have downdraft winds, where you can get acceleration of hailstones to quite a considerable degree. The reason that hailstones don't end up causing more damage has to do with the fact that there's a lot of air friction, and hailstones are not smooth balls of ice. They're very rough and tumble kind of balls of ice. But the way I like to think of it is if it can shatter glass, it can shatter you. And I have proof of that. By the way, one of the biggest harms with hail is not just the hailstone itself, but the shattering of glass. And that's a big problem. So if you're in a car like this, that's not good. Now, for those of you who saw this last year, this is courtesy of Jeff Johnson. This was the ride from hell into Denver International Airport as they hit some really great thunderstorms. And what I want you to appreciate is not only that the nose is bashed into the aircraft, but there's absolutely virtually knocked in hailstones into the glass there. Now, to be fair, this is not a good comparison between aircraft and cars. But the reality is that hail can go right through those windows, and you can be severely injured from that. In fact, one of the most common hail injuries is cuts that come from the lacerations after the hail's gone through the glass and hit other people. But there are fatalities, and they're very, very rare, fortunately. In the past 100 years, only 150 Americans, that's right, take some pride there, guys, America. Only 150 of us have died from hail injury, which is pretty sweet. But there are some really cool occurrences over the history of the planet that are worth mentioning. And about 10 years ago in Zhengzhou, China, 7 were killed, and the official press agency said that there was egg-shaped hail that hit them. And I'm like, wow, egg-shaped. That sounds rough, weird, I don't know. In Bangladesh, 2-pound hailstones killed 100 in 1983. 2 pounds. Don't want to go to Bangladesh. Coolest is an archaeological dig that was sent to try and explore what caused 200 people to be killed in 850 current era in Rupkund, India. And they found that most of those people had sustained head trauma, very consistent with that which we see with hailstones. And in fact, they determined that this was a mass wipeout of a human party seeking shelter on a elevation that were killed by massive amounts of hail. And then, as we learned this morning with the wonderful video from Heidi Farrar, we're talking about 8-centimeter stones traveling based on the photometry at around 150 miles per hour. These things are serious, and yet we like to play around with them a little bit. Now, the last known death from hail occurred in Fort Worth, actually, Texas, during the outbreak of both the tornadoes and severe hailstorm that hit that area back in, was it 99? I'm trying to remember the... When was it? 2000. I was close. Yeah, in 2000, when the downtown was basically destroyed by hail and high winds, and there were many people who were injured by the falling glass that occurred from the upper stories of some of those buildings. So pretty significant. Here's, by the way, the skeleton lake that we were talking about right down there. That was actually one of the pictures of that area. This is what happens when you run and you're not listening to your iPod, and you get hit by hail. You can see that there's considerable bruising that can occur. And then this is a picture of Charles Edwards celebrating a tornado and getting hit in the face by hail. I'd say that it caused some form of permanent neurologic injury, but there's only so much damage that can be done. Hey, I love Charles. That guy likes to play pranks on me all the time, so this is worth it. This is my moment in the sun.